Hi everyone, I hope you're good guys and welcome for a new video. So today we're gonna talk about my Industrial Rave Techno template, the one I've created during my live stream. And today we're gonna talk about the arrangement, the mixing, the mastering, all the automation, about the build up and this kind of stuff. So this is the part 2 if you want to find out more about how I made the kick, the Haas, the element, all this kind of stuff. I explained in the part 1, I will put the link in the description. I explain in detail each element, how I made them, the MIDI note and stuff like that. And today we're gonna more focus on how I built the things, how I built different parts, which automation I done, how I built the breaks, how was my automation move, how I mix and how I master the whole project. So first let's listen to it. So it sounds like this. So that's kind of vibes. So first, I created this track during the live stream, and my main idea was to do something more like dark industrial, but I kind of slipped into a more like trancey, ravey kind of industrial techno, mainly because I use this lead and here. And yeah, so that was basically at first my main lead. And then after, to add variation, I decided to add this chord to kind of stab. And yeah, the way I beat, so I have the intro. I'm just gonna explain you quickly the arrangement. I have the intro, and then we go into the first break where I introduce the main lead from the chorus, which is the lead high, which is like the lead you will hear in the chorus. So I have the chorus and the drop. Then we go to break 2, which is a short break where I get rid of the lead high and I put the key, which is part of the verse. And then we have a verse. And then we have a short bridge, like just to take a break a little bit from the main element from the verse and the chorus. And then we have this break, which is the last, I mean not the last, but the break just before the second drop. We have a second drop. And then after, before the final, I kind of reintroduce the verse too, like kind of quickly before, like having a switch, having a quick changement, which is kind of a bit unusual, but what sounding is good. And then after we have the final break and the outro. So that was the main arrangement. I'm now gonna go part by part explaining how I've done things. So we start with the intro, we just have the kick and the ambience, and the kick you cannot hear, but it's on the mix down. Here I have a locket engage, so obviously I need to remove it. And then after syncing bar, I introduce the kick and the hat. That's gonna be here. And then 16 bar after, I start to introduce the lead low, and with a bit more hat. Then we have, so then the lead here is growing, is starting to arrive more and more with the filter. Sorry, up with the filter opening like this. So here I use the lead low to kind of introduce the lead high, and this one has more like a drone function, and this one is more like the main lead who play the hook and the melody. And I separate them because it was easier. Like this, you can see when I'm introducing this one, and then I'm taking this one away because I'm gonna bring this one up. So that helped me to make nice and smooth transition. So I have the pad coming as well here. So here you can see, like, on the break start kind of here, I've kind of made a low cut just before the break. It just helps with the transition. So one thing you can hear I used a lot here is I have this on the kick. I have this repeat rack. I will come back later when we talk about automation, but it helps the transition with all of the LSFX as well. And then we kind of enter in the first break, which is kind of split into two parts. Let's say it's this blue part and this white part. Here is just more the play, the synth playing. I still getting rid of the lead low and introducing the lead high with the notes coming. And then I have, so here is more like the steady part, and then after I have this white part where like the build up starting and things start to get interesting, where I'm adding the drums, I'm bringing lead high filter, I'm adding new note. You can see like this was the first part, and then I add more notes. So you can see at the beginning here, and then the two top notes repeat way much more. And here what I've done with the kick and the hats, I find it interesting to bring the drum this way. So basically you have a low pass filter on both. You can see this one here, and it's on the hats as well. And like this, it's kind of, as much as the filter open, it's kind of bring tension because you feel like something is coming, you know. It's kind of the effect like it's getting closer and closer, you know, like it's like. And you can see I have as well the same kind of effect with a high pass filter. So like the kick is very cut at the beginning, and then the more you go, the less is cut, obviously. So again, this add movement, add tension, is really making the listener say, okay, like there is something coming. Obviously, you still have the cut on the mix down anyway. And yeah, so then as far as the filter move up, and the filter of the lead move up as well, you have SFX coming. And here, instead of starting straight away with a drop, I make a 2-bar break. And this kind of break, kind of nice tension release, and then after you have the drop again. So you're gonna see how it sounds, the whole things. I'm gonna play now. So first the part, just descend. Like if you can, the calm part. Bring down the filter. Now, drums coming. Pattern changing. SFX. And obviously something which always work well, so it's stopping everything just like 1 or 2 bar before the drop, and then you play with the filter, you bring it down and up, and that's this. This usually is super effective. So here I've done another things on the mixdown to help everything. So first you have this rider knob, which is basically kind of a DJ FX. I'm gonna abuse it like this, you're gonna hear it. Okay, you see inside this like delay, reverb, EQ, and this kind of DJ stuff. And it's always, if you use it a little bit like slightly appropriately, it kind of doesn't sound like a DJ effect, and it's kind of helping the overall build up to bring tension and stuff like that. And the other thing I've done, I play with the utility gain here and the width. stereo width. And you see just before the drop, I've kind of reduced the stereo width to make it more mono, and I kind of bring down the gain a little bit as well to make it quieter. That's the way when it's dropping, everything is like full gain and full stereo, and you go from something a bit mono and lower in volume to something fully stereo and full of volume, and it gives more impact and more dynamic to your sound, obviously, because you go from something quieter to something super loud. And yeah, and that's it for So then we have the first drop with it's basically just the kick and the main lead playing with the ambience as well in the background, but always super effective to have the less element possible. Usually just the kick and the bass, if it sounds good, is the best. And then after you introduce progressively again the other elements, so you can add the Alright. And then after again you introduce the ride, and the pads gonna start as well to kind of introduce the break and the verse. I'm gonna explain to you. Then now the ride. Always nice before every 16 bar to add a little bit of cut, you see, like that usually works super well on the dance floor. And yeah, then is the ride coming, and you have this pad which is I bring up with the cutoff more and more, and I've done that because I have, if you remember from the last video, this key high, it's basically the same sound but just played differently and a bit twisted. So this way you're gonna understand why So here the same, the break. So this is the break between the chorus and the verse, and here it's kind of split in two parts. You can see like you have this part here and then this part here. So obviously it's like getting rid of one element to let the place for another one. And you can see I have still the kick and the drums until in the first part, and I get rid in the second part. And same with the lead high. You can see I bring down the filter, and I bring up the lead low, and I bring up and up here with the cutoff. I bring it up the element, and you can see at the beginning it's playing a straightforward pattern, and then on the second part it's playing the real pattern basically, which is like kind of bringing new to the listener. Here we are still in the chorus part, and then we enter in the verse one. So here I keep the lead low here because if I was removing, it was kind of something empty, and you still have this which is kind of remembering you the main lead, but it's more like now in the background, and it's not the main element. It's obviously then again the drop is like just the kick and the main sound, no drums, no nothing, just a little bit SFX in this case, but very simple. And then after 16 bar, you just reintroduce the ads. see I've done something a little bit different. I didn't keep the verse for too long. So you have one part which is a drop where it's just the kick and the verse and there is no drums. And then I add the hat. And straight away after that, it's the hat and the ride in the same time. And then after we switch into the bridge. And the reason why I've done that is because the break 3 after, I bring back the chorus. And to kind of smooth the transition, make things better, was nice to have a bridge. And to don't have this playing, because if I had this chord playing at the entrance of the break, it would have been hard to get rid. It would have more like sound like I'm mixing two sound in the same track rather than being just one track. So that was really important to getting rid before the break of this element in the verse. So that's why I created the bridge. That's why I have this perk, which is basically the main element of the bridge, and that I have introduced in the verse part to kind of get the listener familiar with the sound and to don't have a too abrupt transition. Because here again I will use a low cut and it will help. Here we are in the verse. And again, two things help with the transition to getting rid of this easily. First, the pad. So you can see here what I'm doing. I'm bringing up the pad, which means like here the pad kind of acting like as the tail of this scent. You're gonna understand if I play just this together, you're gonna see. Alright, the transition was okay. Now if I remove the pad, you're gonna see it's obviously way much more abrupt. And here's the pad really helped the transition, really helped to smooth the things. And here's got the same with the lead low. Basically, the fact that from here it's like kind of in the middle and I open, and it's just like, yeah, kind of. And because everything is fading down, you see like everything is bring down, it's I don't know how to call this, but this is something common, you know, like when you have a lot of element and when you get rid, you have all this stuff will start to fade. And then you have your pair here. So here is basically the moment where you take a break a little bit from all the main element, either this tab chord key or either of the main lead. And then after we get into the break 3. So basically it's exactly the same than the break 1, I mean more or less. The only thing is here the MIDI pattern is changing, so you have 3 variations of this lead high pattern. You had basically the one I used for the intro when you see the note was playing like just once, just 2 times every 4 bar, let's say, and here was like playing 4 times every 4 bar. So each bar basically, and you see you have just these 2 notes rather than here. You can see at the beginning is the same one I just showed you. You have 1 every bar. And then after I had this higher note for the last part, which is switching from this to that. With 1 note playing every 2 bar. And here I've done exactly the same thing than before. I start the break with like the previous one, and then after I introduce the new one when I introduce the drum. So that's why it's like bringing something new and fresh. And then after again. And yeah, after again, it's exactly the same done with here. You see what I've done? I stopped 2 bar before, and I've done exactly the same here. I stopped 2 bar before, same as FX. Kind of been lazy, but was working, so I keep the same way. Here I didn't put actually the riser knob. I could have, honestly. Honestly, I might have probably forgot, but it works, so it didn't shock me, let's say. And then so we got into the second chorus, and we got again our lead high and just the kick. Obviously this time the lead high is playing a different pattern. And then again I introduced the hats and the pads. Then I will introduce the ride. And here again, it's an interesting thing. It's kind of like with the bridge stuff. I have a quick changement, and you can see here is the final break. But before that, I'm gonna switch back to the verse. But I'm not gonna do like before with a longer break and the same transition. It's gonna be a bit more abrupt and more like. But it works. It's just work, and I will explain you how. So let's listen first. So here I mainly done a fade in and fade out, as you can see. So I bring back the key progressively with the cutoff by opening the cutoff, and I bring down and make a fade away with the lead high by bringing down the filter. But the thing is here, I've kind of, you can see this part is just playing the low note, so I kind of play this part here, but with descent here. So this way is just this kind of drone buzzing effect. So this is very similar to this one, obviously. Except that the filter is a little bit more open on the verse too. And then after here, I've kind of again made a fade in, fade out. I bring back the lead in with the MIDI pattern. But you see, it's the classic, is the one from the chorus. The first chorus is not like the one from the second chorus, like here you can see with the high note, it's just this one. So I bring it back and the sentence on the right. And here is like what I've got the final break. Obviously I get rid of the ride, I get rid of the key, and I start to bring up the lead low because I'm gonna need to get rid of this lead high, obviously, because it's the end. So we still have a little bit here on this part of the outro, the main lead. Could be like a kind of bridge here as well, and already the outro, but yeah, I call it outro because it's easier, you know. Now it's like the moment when we start to get rid of everything. You see, after we get rid of the hats, get rid of the bass. So we still have the low drone and a lot of hats. Then after we get rid. So that's it for the whole arrangement. Now I'm gonna talk about more automation and how I've done things to make things less boring. So first with the kick that I didn't talk to you. So you have a beat repeat, you see, which is basically, this Ableton device, which is really nice. And here's a rack I've made for myself, but basically according to the macro, the value here is activating the first one, which is like 1/8 repeat grid. And if I go a little bit more up, like from 30, it's the second one, which is 1/16. Which is basically you get this kind of for the 16, or this one for the 1/8. And obviously I automate that, and it's nice to automate along the track. It's add variation. It's work well for this kind of industrial techno. At the end of a bar, for example. You see, for the break, it's nice as well. And it's nice as well with this chord because you're gonna see here, it's kind of playing in the same time than these 3 notes and these 2 notes here. You're gonna see here just the chord, and pay attention to the chord. You see when it's doing the dun-dun, the kick is playing as well exactly the same. So that's a nice effect as well, which add variation, but as well play like if it was playing with the key track. So that's the first variation I've done with the kick. I haven't done much variation with the hide on this one because they are straightforward and pretty, yeah, you don't really need to make too much variation. Then I have variation on the lead low, so mainly it's to introduce or get rid of the track, helping the transition. Here obviously I use it a little bit more in the musical or artistic way to add variation. But yeah, that was the Jill. This one I use it, it's mainly to, again, it's to add variation for the intro, outro. And yeah, along the track, you can see different variations. So you see here was like fully open, and then I make a short break here with the locket, and then I bring back straight away. Oh, I'm gonna get rid of all of this stuff because I don't really need them. And I bring back with a filter down. And yeah, I automate like this, how I feel. You see, it's nice as well sometimes to, just before to introduce the ride, you know, I know that the ride is coming, so this part, I'm gonna bring down the filter for like this. When I'm gonna bring the ride, I'm gonna bring the filter back up, and you got this nice dynamic effect. Let me explain, you're gonna see. Fully open. Bring down the filter, break, and fully open again with the ride. And that's super effective. And yeah, then for the key, I haven't done that much. I haven't done any automation. I like this kind of stuff to be like very straightforward and don't make too much automation with the filter because after it's kind of sounding weird. And yeah, pad same is filter automation, bringing it up the pad in the front, taking it back taking it back on the background, and yeah, just helping transition as I said, I explained before. And yeah, the amp is, again, I automate just a little bit of volume because there was a point like the amp when it's here is very busy with the other sound. It's not really point to have it, so it's helping the mix to bring it down the ambience a little bit on the space that you don't really need, and then obviously bring it up for the outro and make sure it's on at 0 dB for the intro as well. But yeah, you see all of this part is more like in background. SFX, nothing special to say. Yeah, mix down, I explain everything. So okay, let's talk about mixing. So if you're familiar with my template and my video, you know that I kind of mix as I go. As you can see even here on the hats, you will find always the same kind of a combination of effect. You will always see EQ, saturation, and delay and reverb. That will be the main things you will see because you don't need to overdo it. And usually if you overdoing it, it's probably something is wrong with the sound itself at the base, and you need to modify this rather than trying to make things work with EQ, saturation, and stuff like that. So basically, I always use EQ to kind of get rid of the frequency I don't need. Like for example, on this ride, I didn't need Oh, sorry. I didn't need all this part. See, it's completely useless. And I wanted to boost this part. That's something I like to do, boost a frequency range where I think the sound can shine and can really stand out. So that's why I boost here. And usually I add a bit of saturation, but here I've been very gentle, but just to make things louder, have harmonics. And then after delay, it's either for rhythmic effect or it's easier to space the sound in the stereo image. But usually I use more echo and delay as sound design kind of characteristic of the sound itself rather than really to mixing purpose. And same goes with reverb. Like I was saying, usually reverb, if it's my drums, I don't have too much dry wet, but I have, if it's cloud hi-hat, I've got a decay timer around 600 milliseconds, and if it's like more like a open hat or a ride, it's more like around 140, and it's exactly the same for the synth. The way I see the thing is like all the main lead, the stuff who are like in the front, you will always be like between 2-3 seconds, maybe less, maybe a bit more, you see, because you want them to give space, but you don't want to give them too much space because otherwise it sounds like a pad, and it need to don't be too dry neither. So that's why I always deal with my reverb like this. But for example, if it's a pad or if it's like an ambience, I will straight away put everything in the background, and the best way to do that with a reverb is like obviously to put a longer tail, and like I've done here, a longer tail, 13 seconds, and a way much more wet amount. This way you put everything in the background, and that's the way I see the things. And like, let's see, drum in the room, you have the first distance here, then you have a second circle which is more like a plate, and where I will put more like my open hat or some of the perk or all of my main lead synth and stuff like that. And then I have a bigger, which is like a hollow ambience room, where I will put all my pad, background, ambience, and stuff like that. And that's the way I mix with my reverb, and that's the way I do. That's why I always kind of, when I say that I mix as I create, is because I already, when I create the sound, when I create the key, I already imagine where I'm putting it in the mix, in which room, if I can say so. But yeah, otherwise I usually just do some EQ is if I need to get rid of frequency. I see here, for example, I didn't like. Let me play here, which is a bit more aggressive. There will be sometimes resonant frequency that I don't like, and I will just remove them, like. But again, this is, you have to always to be careful to don't do too much, because you can be tempted when you start to remove resonance frequency to kind of remove too much, and then after you just destroy your sound. So you have just remove 1, maximum 2, and really maximum 3, but otherwise you're gonna destroy too much your sound. And yeah, like I said, I like to use this Haas Effect to put element on the side to don't make the mid of your stereo image too busy. So usually pads, here I put the key, but the low part of the key of the stab on the stereo as well. I put the pads and probably some of the ambience as well. That way I keep my center, I keep the space for my center for the kick, the drums, and the main lead, which are the main element of your track. And yeah, let me quickly check, but yeah, that's it for the mixing. Yeah, honestly, there is no like secret. I always try to be careful with the source, to have just like to EQ. You see, I don't even compress. The only compress, yes, I wanted to talk about that. The only compression I do is Sidechain Compression usually, and I use this SC track, which is sidechain. Basically, it's a clap. It's a 909 clap that I use because it's a high frequency and it's super sharp. If you can see here, it's like just few milliseconds. And the why I use the clap and not the kick. The problem with the kick, if you use this kick, for example, here the kick is not playing, but I still want to have the sidechain going on. You cannot, you know, you need to duplicate the kick track and kind of create a ghost kick track, which is basically the same than this. So that's why I use this clap, and I use the clap rather than the kick, because kick contain low frequency, which is kind of slower. The wave is like longer, so it's gonna trigger your sidechain. It's gonna make your sidechain slower too. So you use something sharp with nice transient, and so clap is good for that. So that's why I have this, and plus I use it like always like this to color and like to kind of see every 8 bar and where I am in the track, and it helped me. It's kind of a guidance, this as well. So it's kind of have a double function. But yeah, clap is sharp, trigger fast, you compressor, that's what you want. You can do it with a kick if you like EQ, because you know on the kick you have this EQ button, but it's just like way much more struggle. You just take a clap, and you don't need to EQ. You don't need to EQ your kick. Fast. See, it's pretty fast, and does work well. So yeah, that's it for the mix. Like, how I can advise you, it's always being careful with the reverb, especially with the ramps. Don't put too much a long tail, because it's the kind of thing with kind of making messy your mix, basically having too long reverb or having element fighting each other. That's one thing that, sorry, I forgot to tell you. It's like trying to find element who doesn't overlap each other, because who doesn't have the same frequency range, because that's how you're gonna make things messy. And picking up the right element, just a few who doesn't overlap each other, who are fitting well together, and that's how you're gonna have a nice clean mix, because you cannot have a clean mix if you have 35 elements which are overlapping each other. Even if you are the best mixing engineer, you will have like a frequency conflict and this kind of stuff. So the less elements you put which are fitting the best in the best way possible together without even mixing, and the best your mix will be. And then after, like I say, it's just some EQ to remove things you don't like, boost the one you like, adding a bit of saturation to add harmonics, and yeah, and after you're done with the mix. And then let's go to the master. So here, the master, usually for my template I don't go too heavy. Anyway, like Ableton master plugin for master, and honestly not the best. So here is like without. So yeah, it's mainly loudness gain, you know. I would like to have like a tape plugin or stuff like that, but anyway, so I use utility, make the bass in mono. That's for club system, is better. And add a bit of width, because it's nice with this detune kind of sound. They are usually super wide. So I say, okay, why not add a little bit? I don't know if it's really, you can really hear it well. It's very slight. Then just gentle compression. It's very like just more like to glue everything. It's nothing too crazy. It's as usual. It's exactly the same parameter that I use as usual for mastering. I'm just trying to reach 1-2 dB reduction, something like this. Slow attack, and yeah. Just a bit of makeup. I don't know, it's kind of just bring everything in the front as well. Glue everything and bring everything a little bit more in the front. Then you got saturator. This is just to add some harmonic and loudness. So obviously this you have to be gentle, because if you put too much drive, you're gonna saturate the sound. My. You see, I could even have been a bit more saturated to have even a louder sound, but yeah. Anyway, accurate. So here usually I do a bit more work, but on this one, whatever I was doing wasn't working. So when it's like this, I say, okay, I'm not gonna overcomplicating myself. Because usually I like to boost a little bit the low, but here when I was boosting, I didn't feel any very big difference. So I just remove a little bit here to kind of remove. Kind of removing this muddiness or this kind of rumbly stuff that I didn't like. It's subtle again, but it kind of makes things clear. I boost. Just to make the mix a little bit slightly brighter. Yeah, this is very subtle, just a high shaft. So then I use again this color limiter because, like I said, what is really missing with Ableton plugin is this plugin who's gonna add warmth to your sound, kind of a tape emulation and this kind of stuff. That's already what I miss. So I try to use the color limiter to kind of get this feeling, but yeah, it kind of adds a bit of warmth. And then I have two limiter in series. Just to add loudness, and the reason why I don't put just one limiter with 4 dB is because doing like this is kind of doing by step, and it's kind of making things a little bit smoother. And yeah, that's it for the master. So I hope guys you like. I hope you like the template. If you wanna get the template, the link in the description. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, activate the bell notification, and see you soon guys. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.